There we go. We'll call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and with liberty and justice for all. First item of business will be to introduce Emily and the swearing in of the new commissioner. We also had a resignation of one of the commissioners, so if anyone out there is interested, it's posted on the city website to get a letter of interest, and I think it closes on September 22nd. So let's proceed with swearing in.
Would you rise, please? Yes. And raise your left hand. Right hand.
Right
Say
hand.
the left hand.
Left hand is
And
important.
read your oath.
I, Emily WALDRON, do solemnly swear by the ever-living God that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Colorado and the city charter and ordinances of the city of Cortez, and faithfully perform the duties of Planning and Zoning Commission. Thank you.
And we get you to sign it.
Okay.
Whoops, were we too fast for you?
Do the photo op again. Raise your hand.
Hey, look over here.
And I'll make a copy and get it to you.
Okay.
On that note, I have a question for the town attorney, because the phrase seems awful peculiar to me when I've served on boards in other towns. We never had anything about any ever-living God and all of that. Where does that come from? How did that exist, and why is it still there?
I changed it, and I'm not sure why. It's still, you need to meet with the city clerk.
I will.
She has a new, I've gotten rid of all that.
She's the one that gave me this. So
Yeah, no, I changed it about
What you said.
a year ago.
Well, on that note, let me say, God bless you, Patrick.
There you go.
First item of business will be the approval of the minutes of last meeting.
I move to approve the minutes from last meeting.
I'll second those because all you can do is vote present. First and a second. No discussion. We'll proceed to vote.
Scorts,
Yes.
Remy,
Yes. You can have her vote as present.
that's just present.
Yeah.
Present.
Since we have to have a quorum. First item is public participation. Anybody out there care to say anything? Next item will be public hearings. Nancy, are you highlighting this for us?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh. Ready? And I guess our applicant did not show up. So I imagine that means there won't have any arguments with your conditions. But the request is from 2474 Patterson Road LLC as the applicant for site plan to construct a new office building at on North Sligo. It's temporary address of 72 North Sligo Street. That may change based on where the driveway is ultimately located. So it's office building for Major Mortgage. It's proposed on 3 separate lots. What's 3 separate lots right now? Those will be required to be consolidated prior to any building permits being approved for the property. So as you can see right here on the site plan, I just gave you an overview. Building located in essentially the center of the 3 lots. 2 lot lines are here that will need to be consolidated. driveway access off of Sligo. It is quite a bit of an uphill from Sligo, so they'll be pulling the driveway off and up. Retaining walls will be required for the construction. Once consolidated, the new lot will total just over half an acre at 0.53 acres. Property is currently vacant. So here's the location, a little bit better view here. East Main Highways right in this area, and we're down here on these 3 vacant lots right now. This is Safeway over here to sort of orient you, and this is the lighted intersection with Sligo and East Main. So generally, the purpose of a site plan is to make sure that it complies with all regulations, also protect public health, safety, and welfare. You are charged as the Planning Commission to look at paving and layout of streets, alleys, sidewalks, means of ingress and egress, drainage, parking spaces, landscaping, other aspects deemed by the Planning Commission necessary to consider promoting public health, safety, and welfare. As you can see from, okay, here's a little closer version of the property. There's some kind of a fenced area. I'm not sure what that was in the past. I was going too fast. Here's your criteria. And then, as you can see, I did a little analysis of the minimum lot size, setbacks, etc., maximum lot coverage. The only thing of concern right now is the landscaping. They said they were proposing 10,000 or 10%, which is our code requirement. My math showed them at 7%, or the need to increase. And here's, I believe, where the problem came is that they actually counted landscaping in the right-of-way, which is sort of right along here. They also counted this area in here, which they've termed as gravel or granite mulch. So it's rocks, from what I can tell. So if you take out the right-of-way landscaping, they do not meet the 10% requirement because they were right at it. I'm hoping you guys can give me a little bit more direction on whether you feel that granite mulch is landscaping or not. I've brought up for you here the definition of landscaping in our code. It does seem to leave some room for what they're calling organic and inorganic materials used for creating an attractive appearance. It clearly says concrete and asphalt don't count, but I couldn't really tell whether we feel like decomposed granite does or not. This was the first thing that came up on a Google search. It's this tan area on here in this example of what a decomposed granite looks like in a landscape. So there's that. There's probably 2 other issues. They didn't propose a sidewalk in this frontage along Sligo. They are required to provide a sidewalk along there, so that will be part of our conditions should you choose to approve. And then the final issue is drainage. As you can see from this, they're proposing a lot of hardscape, although the site right now is pretty much bare dirt, but they would be paving the area. There's a slope down to the Sligo, and our engineer has brought up concerns that what will happen is this site's all going to drain out and drop onto Sligo, where we may have issues with flooding should we get a heavy rain. So there, you'll see conditions from Kevin regarding the drainage. So with that, staff is recommending approval of the site plan. There are 5 conditions we've put on there. The first one covers our sidewalk concern and any other concerns that might be brought up regarding code compliance. That's a standard condition. The second condition is again, from our city engineer, asking for stamped construction drawings, pretty standard condition. The third condition is specific about a drainage report submitted and approved by the city engineer prior to issuance of a building permit for the property. Number 4 was regarding the landscape plan, and I'm asking that that be revised to meet minimum code standards. The rest of that condition is pretty standard about having the landscaping in prior to any CO being issued for the property. And then the final condition would be that a plat amendment consolidating the 3 lots be approved and recorded prior to issuance of a building permit for the property. Plat amendments go straight to city council. They don't need to come back to the planning commission. So you would not see that, but it's pretty standard to, as far as vacating lot lines. So with that, I think the major 3 issues were sidewalk, which should not be a problem to add into their plans. Landscaping, they don't have enough of it according to our code. And then the final one, drainage, and whether or not their plan complies with our code now. Kevin wasn't so sure about that. I guess overall, though, given that they have provided more than enough parking spaces, they've got 4 extra, plus there's a lot of empty paved space on here. It does appear that there's certainly plenty of room on the property to add some landscaping, and that should also probably help with the drainage or water detention on site by freeing up some of that asphalted area with more permeable surfaces. So, are there any questions?
I have several comments on each of those points that you raised. Number 1, the drainage. While it's a concern for flooding with water, what most concerns me as somebody who walks around town a heck of a lot all year round is in the wintertime when the snow melts and it drains onto that east side of Sligo and turns to ice like it does across the intersection. So I'm more concerned with the drainage from snow melt creating an icy sidewalk. So I would heavily back up that whole thing about drainage, but on a wintertime basis, more so than actually a summertime basis. So that was a quickie. The second one I have is on the sidewalk. Are we going to, is there somehow to ensure that the sidewalk is flat and they don't try to put it on that slope? How does that work?
Yeah, ADA requirements will apply for sidewalk construction, so it'll have to be, I don't know what the standards are off the top of my head.
But a flat sidewalk, yeah. Okay. And then the third thing is the landscaping. We recently had a joint meeting with town council in which we're looking at rewriting the land use code. And in rewriting the land use code, we are looking at doing xeriscaping. We're looking at requiring less landscaping because of the drought and because of water usage. So as far as I'm concerned, from what I saw in the drawings, it looks acceptable to me, and I would like to drop that condition number 4 and accept their calculations, although what you did is correct, obviously. But I would like to just accept their calculations, in error as it may be, because I don't think we want to encourage more and more landscaping, trees, shrubs, et cetera, given the whole drought and the rewriting of the land use code. So if you could advise me on that.
Would you be okay, then would you say that granite mulch is landscaping and count that? Okay. Because that could be permeable. They did speak to a weed barrier, but we'll let that count. It's still not enough. They have to add more to meet the code, and I don't know what we think about saying that.
And so I'm looking at their site plan, you know, looking at the property, and I walk by there, it's up on a hill. I think cramming landscaping in there just to meet the code doesn't really meet the, you know, the humor of the law, what we're trying to accomplish, and if they put a couple trees back up in the back of the hill just to meet the code, I don't know if that's really going to do anything, again, besides just draw more water usage. So can we approve something that's less than the percentage, or assume that this works? How does that work?
Or could they make the determination that the right-of-way counts? I don't think it complies with the code that way. Well, we could hear other questions.
Yeah, because we're looking at the spirit of the law versus the actual
Yeah.
percentage law.
And obviously, the cleanest route would be to have them apply for an exemption from the specific requirement. That way it doesn't put planning and zoning or city council in the position of having to make subjective determinations about objective requirements. And, you know, that's kind of what the exemption process is designed for. I know it's more of a hassle, but you can certainly, in your recommendation, make a note to council that you believe that this requirement should not be applicable to this application, and state some of your reasons.
Well, and maybe if we're looking at the crushed granite as acceptable landscaping, which I think we should, perhaps they add a little bit more of that around the perimeter, which could probably help with stormwater control too, since they have those extra parking spaces to work with. So maybe it's like, you know, you modify your plan a little bit, we like this creative xeriscaping, or you apply for an exemption.
Yeah, they could, the applicant, although I don't see him here tonight, but they could certainly request or modify their application to comply with the requirement using the crushed granite, or the, what do they call it?
They called it granite mulch.
Granite mulch. They could propose that in kind of an amendment to their application before it gets to city council, and you all could make reference to that. If the applicant so chooses, we would recommend support for an amended application that complied with the percentage requirement using the granite mulch as a landscaping material.
So are you saying that's something we should put into a motion, or something you guys would just talk to the applicant about personally?
Well, it's item number 4, I believe.
Yeah.
Basically, they got to meet the criteria.
Yeah, I think you could add a clause onto the end of item number 4 to say that if the applicant so chooses, an amended application that incorporates a greater percentage of the granite mulch would receive a favorable recommendation from Planning Commission or something like that. But I think, you know, you have to look at it based on what the code actually says now.
It may be moot, because my suspicion is that when they comply with the drainage requirements, especially, not just flooding, but for water quality, they're going to have to put either some more gravel area or more landscaped area in to treat that water before it rushes off the parking lot.
And can I just add something about the discussions with the land use code and discussions of requirement for landscaping? I think the discussion was to allow maybe more lot coverage with a building versus you know, requiring more asphalt and parking, And as far as landscaping is concerned regarding water, it was maybe more addressing xeriscaping versus lawns. So,
Nancy, are you saying that when they are in their plan, they put the granite mulch in the right-of-way, and even if that was included, it still doesn't meet the percentage?
If you include the right-of-way, it meets the percentage exact. If you take the right-of-way out and include all the other granite mulch area, it fails to meet it by 1,344. Had to turn it off because we were echoing. So
So, in number,
if I counted they counted everything, including all the granite mulch, in their calculation of meeting exactly 10%. To get to the 7%, all I excluded was the right-of-way, not the granite mulch area.
and the sidewalk doesn't take up any of the right-of-way?
The sidewalk will be in the right-of-way.
That's what I would think. So, really, number 4 says, "The landscaping plan shall be revised to meet minimum code standards," which means they're going to have to add something to it. And
Yes.
if we're in concession that granite mulch qualifies, they would just have to add that much more granite mulch.
Right.
Okay.
I kind of suspect they may be just showing the minimum, and most people would put some plantings around your building. I mean,
And it kind of sounds like I get the flavor that granite mulch is fine
That's
as
gonna
far as
count,
landscaping
yeah.
goes, given our water situation.
I mean, you can plant natives that, once they're established, won't take up water, that aren't rocks. But the code does call inorganic materials.
Anybody else have any questions for Nancy? Then we'll open it up for public hearing. Anybody here to speak for or against? We'll close the public hearing. And any other further discussion? Or I would entertain a motion, I guess, if we don't have any.
I will move.
Here, this one. It's back. That might be the same thing.
Yeah. I move that we adopt a resolution recommending approval of a site development plan for an office building submitted by 2474 Patterson Road LLC on Sligo Street, according to the following conditions as prepared by staff, with one addition, adding to condition number 4, the phrase, "Planning and zoning considers granite mulch to be an acceptable landscaping material in order to meet the landscaping plan." So I've placed that motion on the table.
Is that the same as this one? Because it didn't sound the same.
That's what came in the packet.
Well, that's the resolution, but this is the motion to approve the resolution.
Oh, okay, all right. Did I read the right thing? I've been told I have not.
So are you withdrawing your motion?
No, I'm asking.
Yeah, I think your motion was correct. You may confirm that your motion was to approve resolution number 15, Series 2023.
Yes, my
And-
motion was to approve resolution number 15, series 2023.
With the amendment to condition number 4.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Any further discussion? Let's proceed to vote.
Waldron,
Aye.
Scorts,
Yes,
Remy.
Yes. Next item, let's see, any unfinished business? can't think of any. Any new business? And a couple of information items for other items of business. Nancy, would you care to highlight us on the county stuff?
Okay, so the first request from the county, again, is an informational issue. It is a proposed subdivision located within the 1 mile area of influence. It is south of town, though, on South Broadway, which part of, even though it's within our 1 mile area of influence, it's outside of the master street plan. As you know from the intergovernmental agreement, or maybe if you're new, you don't, what we look at with county projects within our area of influence is whether or not they comply with our master street plan. And that's basically what we're limited to. Other than that, you can see what's happening on the edges of town. In this case, it's a subdivision of a 3-acre piece into 2 1.5-acre parcels. The already existing uses on the properties would remain. It's, like I said, our master street plan is not in effect down there. So that's what it is. The streets do not look great down there, but that's not what we get to talk about.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Nancy?
And then maybe for Emily, once in a while, if it's an issue, we can write a letter to the county commissioners or county planning commission with any city concerns in that area.
Hearing no concerns, we can go on to the next one then.
Okay, this next one is a 4-lot subdivision. It's located within our 3 mile area. It is along County Road N, which is designated as a collector. They're dividing off 4 lots out of a larger piece. Don't know if you have any concerns with that. It's definitely a creative subdivision.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. No comments for our commissioners. Next item, you've gotten copies of the building permits, and I guess I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Emily, why don't you make your first motion?
I move to adjourn this meeting.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Seeing no discussion, we'll proceed to vote.
Waldron,
Yes.
Scorts.
Yes.
Remy.
Yes. Meeting adjourned. So there you go. That was easy.
That was pretty painless. To kick it off.